Say what?
Hello and welcome back. It's time for Say What, where we hear from those connected to the industry about what's going on in our world of electrical apprenticeship. And this includes the topics that you have suggested. So please keep those coming. I'm your host, Cindy Sandifer, and I'm alone today, but Todd is with me in spirit. We just held our 31st NTI, and what a fantastic time we had. It was incredible being back together at the University of Michigan. And during a C group session, which is a session for JATC committee members, local union and chapter officers, and all training directors, we got to host a live recording of Say What. And now you get to experience it too.
Hi. No, that's you all. Hi.
Hi.
Yeah, like, I'm talking to you. Thanks for coming to our session. I know I kind of blasted an email and asked if anybody wanted to help out. So really appreciate those that were willing to contribute to this session, but also those of you that were just saying, yeah, I'll be there. But and you don't have to contribute. Just having your beautiful smiling faces looking back at us is enough treasure for today. But what we asked for was topics. You know, what do you all want to talk about? What's on your mind? And so we're just going to go from there, and then feel free. You don't have to have a mic to join in the discussion. So, you know, if there's something you want to talk about, you may even want to talk about something that you've heard already this week, so it wasn't on your mind before, but now you're kind of thinking about it. So we can chat about those things. Again, huge thanks to those who've agreed to kind of sit up front and share. And we do have a mic that we can pass around if somebody does want to say something. Okay, so I liked this one. Okay, I like a bunch of them, but policies or changes. Do you have, or have you heard of policies or changes that have proven to lower the absence or tardy rate on jobs? So this was someone kind of asking that of this audience. Like, do you have any experience with something that works to help with absences and tardies on jobs for apprentices?
Absenteeism is a growing issue that we're trying to solve. You're right. That'd be a great, somebody has a great policy, great implementation set. We'd love to be able to talk about it and discuss it. So.
What'd you say?
I'd love to hear that.
Oh, okay. So we got a lot of people wanting to hear it. Who's got all the answers? And it does, like, no pressure, but like, what are you doing? And this one didn't specify the classroom. I don't think we're limited to just talking about the job site. So don't feel like what are you doing in the classroom, and or how are you handling job site absences? Is there anything that's been proven to be effective? Or if it's a struggle for you, like, we can also talk about that. Like, what are the struggles you're having in that area? Yes.
So for us, this is also a struggle that we've been kind of going through as well. And one of the things that we've started implementing is we host a boot camp at our training center where we bring in high school students. And they go through a series of different workshops. Some of it's like math relevancy, some hands-on OSHA stuff and things like that. But one of the workshops that we have added is soft skills. So kind of trying to get ahead of the curve before they hit the workforce and encouraging them and just teaching them what some of the soft skills are, you know, showing up on time, ready to work, all of that kind of thing. And so I think it's not necessarily a policy that's directly affecting our current workforce, but we're hoping to kind of get ahead of that curve with the future workforce. So that's something that we're doing, just kind of get ahead.
I think you're exactly right. Anything can expose an applicant to who we are and what we do. It's got to benefit in the long term. It has to. Let them get an idea about how they're going to join a family. What are they going to look like? What's the family like before you join? I mean, it's kind of like that environment, and that's a great tool to use. Let's just make sure when we do that, we make it available to everybody. You know how it works with apprenticeship. We can't discriminate, can't discharge, can't work with different populations without exposing that opportunity to all groups. Just make sure we continue that. It's good to go. I love it.
Yeah, and I think it was Lucas Aubrey when he was talking about, I don't remember which session it was, but he was basically saying, you know, he prefers, it was the scholarship loan agreements. I was going to come back. But he was saying, you know, he prefers, instead of like a punitive type thing, like a reward type system. So I think instead of it being like, maybe if we approach it instead of, this is what happens if you're late to the job or whatever, like, how do we grow those? And you nailed it. Like, how do we grow those soft skills? How do we empower them to understand the importance of being on the job. And I think it was Danny Van Sickle's session earlier, but talking about pre-apprenticeship, and I know Tina Williams talked about it, you've talked about it, just this idea of getting people in and helping them to understand rather than kind of throwing people out cold, because Danny mentioned, like, you know, a lot of these people are high school students, right, through their program that they have, and so they haven't experienced, like, we're really hard on them, but they have not experienced, like, having a full-time job and having to go to school at the same time. Many of them haven't. So I think that's really important.
And the traditional applicant that where a boot camp is not needed or orientation lesson not needed generally has someone second, third, fourth generation of IBEW in a way, which they have family members along the way that kind of keeps them in line what they're supposed to do. And the numbers show up on our statistical values as well. You can see that number affecting our population, minority males and females, drastically more than white males. You see the dropout rates increase because of that. That's because they have no one to rely on. They don't have a big brother, big sister, mother, dad in the program to talk to. They're on their own. So adversity comes along the way, what do? Well, you know, today's generation is good at ghosting. They're real good at it. So they just disappear. You know, they go somewhere else.
Right, absolutely. Does anybody else have anything on that? I don't want to move on if anybody else. We can always come back to, like, again, remember, this is just something comes to your mind, let's talk about it. Like, don't feel, this is not scripted in that way. So we will cut and paste and do all the things that will make it difficult for our editors. I think that'd be kind of fun for the video editors. Like, enjoy, you've got a few weeks to get this baby looking right. So I did want to jump to, we had a few things about the EV charging market, if I'm saying that correctly. And Jason, I believe you were going to help us, right? For the EV, yeah, like we were talking about it a little bit. Several people had comments because there's so much discussion going on, right? And I think you might have some stuff you can share.
Got a little bit. Not a subject matter expert by any means.
Right. No.
But so what we do back at home in Detroit, we make that part of the curriculum in the 5th year as an advanced program. It's the EVITP program that we do, and you can check that out online. There's a website. So we encourage them to go ahead and do that. And there's it's a minor fee, but I think we pick up a lot of that through the LMCC.
Right. Thank you. Yeah, and Terry Coleman, he's running the camera because at NTI, people, everybody's doing everything. But I know Terry Coleman and Jason Lunardini, as far as on our staff, I'm just speaking for who you can reach out to from the ETA, you know, that
it's a very large drive now by the IBEW NICA team to get more people qualified under the EVITP certification. We don't do the certification, the Electrical Training Alliance does not, we provide the training. It's a separation between the certification and training we need to maintain, and we do electrical vehicle charging systems, the courseware that Jason referred to, and that's what we teach and provide, and it's 3 different models. I mean, you got instructor-led, you got a hybrid model with instructor-led and some CML, and you got a purely asynchronous model. So you have your choices about what we're trying to do and grow the market so we can reach that 10,000 number that we need to have to show the administration and anyone looking at doing this work, hey, we can do this work. We're capable of managing every job.
Yeah, and Todd, thank you. I guess I didn't even think about the whole other classification, all the journeymen and journey persons that also need that experience too, right? So I just addressed the apprentices, but you're absolutely correct. So through that website, anybody that's within our organization, you can go ahead and register that, and you can do one of the 3 different ways of getting trained.
Excellent.
Thank you. Thank you, Jason.
Excellent resource.
And as an apprentice, they go ahead and take the test, or they have to wait till they reach journeyman status?
And the requirement, you have 8,000 hours. In a non-licensed state, you have to have the 8,000 hours to qualify to sit for an exam. If you have a licensed state, of course, you have to have the license to be able to get the certification. An apprentice can take it before they get the hours. They just won't get the award until they receive the qualification to get it.
All right, thank you. Great question. And it was just, I'm going to repeat it just to make sure everybody could hear it. Is you were saying if an apprentice can take the exam, correct? Correct. Okay. Just wanted to restate that. What were we going to talk about? Now I'm trying to remember what it was because I made the mistake of not putting people's names by topics. So, yeah.
Well, my main thing is.
Oh wait, hold on. We'll grab that mic, and that way we'll make sure we hear you.
My main thing was differences from state to state. You know, we get a lot of these different topics we're talking about, especially the lawyers. In fact, Aubrey said to me, "Oh, Wisconsin, you're a weird state when it comes to apprenticeship." So, you know, everybody has different rules as far as that's concerned, but also different things that work. And one thing that came to mind was and I forget the acronym for it, but the contract that apprentices would sign, so they stick around after the apprenticeship is done. You know, I don't know that it would work in our jurisdiction or in our local, but you know, here it works well for some others, so it'd be interesting to hear other people's views on that.
Great.
And
Great discussion points as well, and there's really two contracts there. I'm not sure which one to refer to. One is the regular indenture, when you indenture them into apprenticeship program, that is a contract. We just refer to it as indenturement into the apprenticeship program, but it's a contract. I think you may be referring to the scholarship loan agreement. That's looking at that program. A program created such that whenever you spend private dollars training, you have some way to recoup that money so that they don't benefit you and pay back enough assessments to pay for their training over a period of time. That works. Two things about it though, if you have one in place, if you go after one individual, you have to go against everybody. You have to go after all the money. There's no excuse for it. If they don't finish out their agreement, you go after and you collect monies. Well, that's hurt us a couple times whenever the apprentice has to leave. Parents passes away and all the parents in a nursing home, and they move back home and take care of the parents and drop out of the program. Wait a minute, all of a sudden now we got to go charge them. Wait, that's, you know, it kind of hurts, but you have to do it. Lucas also brought up the issue about kind of rewarding and incentivizing the system, which I like that model as well. I look here, and actually his predecessor, remember his name, Nora?
Yes.
His predecessor speaking about, actually said, find a way where we can incentivize our program such that we can reward an apprentice for sticking around for that time rather than taking something away from them. And it's a voluntary program where you can participate in, say, put money into an fund when an apprentice starts, and after they reach, you know, third year, fifth year, however you want to do it, or 2 years out, you give them a little money back. They get a bonus for sticking around. And it's really this money they've earned by being there, by saving you, but yet it doesn't matter, and having to go after funds when you're trying to collect. And I bet you if you follow the math out, I'm the math guy, I get it. You follow the math, there'd be enough guys that will leave the program, and gals, will leave the program over time to where they've lost that money they've been contributing to for that period of time. They'd probably be self-funding, if you think about it. Start funding itself, you don't have to add to it anymore. So it's a matter of time to get there, I agree, we've got to make it to the point. But that's another good model to look at. I wish we'd think a little bit about, and that may be something better for Wisconsin, since you have a statewide system, registration, everybody together. Yeah, I know you're weird, but we all, it's the first thing we hear on the phone, somebody calls that. We do things a little bit different here, so it's no matter where it's at. So.
We're all weird.
I guess my question for people would be, you know, maybe the incentive, maybe not the incentive, but the other way around, where they would pay money if they left. Does that take away from good applicants? You know, you have someone that has a specific set of skills or just has good soft skills around. Does that, you know, make it difficult to get better applicants?
Yeah, well, we get some audience input in that as well, if those that may have it. But I don't know if that's a measurable number. If you're preventing a good applicant because they're worried about getting or having to pay back a scholarship loan agreement if they leave the program, but a good applicant probably not going to leave. I mean, so I don't know if that's a measurable number. Yeah,
I'd kind of like to respond to that too.
So I addressed the scholarship loan agreement in the process of orientation, that it's monopoly money. It doesn't mean a thing. It's only important or collected if you leave the family. And if that's your intentions coming into our apprenticeship program, and you choose to, your goal is to go through the apprenticeship program and get one of those jobs at the refineries and lifelong jobs or whatever, it's still a great deal. Our policy is $8,000 you pay back, and one semester in college is about $4,000 to $6,000. We have apprentices that try to go for instrumentation, process operators, whatever it might be, and they'll spend $20,000. Still find it difficult to get their first job in one of those refineries because they lack skills. They have no on-the-job training. So I tell my students when we're going through orientation, this is a great deal. Go ahead and concede to it. $8,000 or $10,000, whatever your policy is a bargain, because you're going to get picked up by those petrochemical refineries because you have both classroom-related training, hands-on skills, and you've been on the job. So you're familiar with the job site and the refinery. So they're going to hire you up just like that. And in some cases, we've had the refineries actually pay that scholarship.
That's that's super interesting. That's why I like this, is because hearing all these different views. At the JTC I was at, we did not do scholarship loan agreements, but there was a bank that we had a relationship with, And so they would almost definitely, I would say, approve the loan. Like it's, you know, you never want to say always, but they would approve a loan for the apprentices because they understood how things worked. And so yes, it's not, but it makes it maybe a little bit less scary because when they're hearing about peers that are going and taking out college loans, and then their loan is, you know, much, much lower. I can't remember exactly what it was at the time. But it kind of helped them, I think, to ease that fear of, you know, we called it tuition, right? So it was, you know, at one point it was like 500. I think it ended up at 700 before I left because obviously prices increase. You know, so for some people the $700 a year is nothing. But for the ones that are concerned about it, if they know there's an option with a low interest, you know, I think it alleviates some of the fear. Did somebody, I thought I saw a hand up. Maybe I didn't. Anybody else on that? Anything you're doing with maybe to alleviate any of the heaviness of book fees or how you work that?
Yeah. Stephanie?
Yeah. One second, I want to make sure we hear you.
So to help with some of the alleviation of book fees that we have for our apprentices, each year if they pass a certain grade point average, they actually get their book fee from that year paid. So I actually did it twice in my apprenticeship. I scored over a 95 for 2 years, and that year I paid for those books. They gave me that amount back.
Stephanie, that's very informative to know. And, you know, of course, my son being in the program that you went through, just into that, I did not know that. I will see that he gets all my money back, yeah.
Oh, yes,
Okay,
sir.
yeah, thank you.
So yeah, as long as the apprentice,
Yes.
it was actually me and one of my other co-students did it twice in our 5-year apprenticeship.
So they just reimburse you at the end of the year if you've
Yes, ma'am.
met
So
that.
as long as you make over a 95, they'll give you what you paid at the beginning of the year. They'll give that back to you.
That's
So that
Great.
that kind of incentivized some of us to, you know, we got to crack down on these books, get your test scores up, you get your money back to
Yeah.
help pay for your books for next year.
That is huge. Sorry, Sam, by the way. She didn't mean to sell you out. I'm joking, like for his son, now that he's going to go back and mess with him. Like, that was an unintended consequence of this podcast.
It's a good one though, and not to be confusing, we kind of intermix two different discussions here in one
Yes,
discussion
sorry.
point about scholarship loan agreements for the JATC rights and be able to charge for apprentices for training as well as book costs and loans as well. 'Cause as long as we keep them straight, we're good.
Yes. Sorry, I didn't mean for you to end up being a mic runner. I apologize. Are you okay? Okay. Okay, well, you're not done with that. So, Marty, what were we going to talk about? Did we have something? I'm trying to remember. Or were you just willing to help?
I was just helping.
Oh, look at that. Don't do that to me. Jim, you want to? Yeah. No, I didn't. I made the mistake of not writing down what people had said, but I do have names here. So I know James Stover wants to talk about popcorn, right? Is that what we just?
Popcorn. Yeah.
Popcorn.
They don't have any favorite popcorn brands.
Oh my God. Oh.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I think the topic I sent you was drug policies concerning marijuana. New Jersey, state I'm out of, I'm from Trenton, New Jersey, folks, by the way. We just passed a law, 2022, to legalize recreational marijuana. So we're kind of still floundering around trying to figure out how we implement policy at the JATC level. So I'd just like to hear from everyone else, because a lot of you guys have been dealing with this problem a lot longer than we have, you know, what everyone's doing.
And I will let you know, as soon as he sent that, I was like, hey, Lucas, can you come to our session? Well, Lucas is speaking in another room right now, but he did send me a cheat sheet. So I do have some notes from Lucas, but I think before we even jump into that, is anybody dealing with that? Or are you starting to think about it?
Of course, being for a cause is a great way to approach your policy at your JATC. I don't implement it. You guys can implement that kind of stuff where it's at. But for cause is a great reason, because if you think about it, you now have a controlled substance, for lack of a better way of putting it, but it's still legal to bring out the industry, but it's no different than alcohol. I mean, you can't show up on a job site drunk. We know that. Okay, well, it's going to be the same thing with drugs. Part comes into be, how are you going to test? What's your testing for that? Alcohol consumption is pretty easy. I mean, you go out and test somebody, you pass the legal limit, you're considered to be drunk. Well, the same thing on high. You can go drink or smoke something on Friday night when you get off work. It might show up Monday morning at the job site. So you got to determine maybe for cause. John?
Yeah, Michigan, we started out with medical marijuana, and we'd have applicants that thought they had a get out of jail free card. And now, I think it was 2 or 4 years ago, I can't remember the cycle, recreation is also legal now. But it's not legal Department of Transportation.
Correct.
And so it's still, you know, apprentices still, if they test positive, they have to go through the procedure of, you know, for our drug policy, you have to go to counseling and show, you know, that you've updated your stuff. It's not fair though, you know, because you can't test. If I have a beer, hell, if I have heroin on Friday after work, and I show up Monday, that doesn't even show up.
Right.
But marijuana has stayed in
Right.
your system for a long time. But so it's still illegal. We haven't changed our policy at all, and it hasn't been a big hassle. The state has. We're part of the MUST management union, safety.
Got it. Survey
So-
together? Got it.
Yeah, so, I mean, Detroit has the same thing, and it hasn't been a huge problem, but every once in a while, we'll get somebody that, you know, will get caught up in it, but
Right.
it
John,
hasn't been huge.
can I ask, what is your testing policy? Is it random or is it for cause or?
Annually and random.
Got it.
Part of that must, and that's for the whole, that's for journeymen and apprentices, so annually, you have to have a condition of employment, you have to have drug tests annually. And you talk about being different in states, well, you're different in cities. I don't think Detroit, we pay a stipend, so our journeymen and apprentices, they get $50 just to go get tested. And so,
Ours is free, and it's customer required sometimes, so you might be going a couple times a week if you have to.
yeah. I mean, it's free, but they get a check from labor management for $50 to, I keep telling them, I don't understand when they let it lapse. I'll send somebody out and it's lapsed, and they're gonna give you $50 to do it, just do it, you know?
Right.
But
Right. I think do we have another, you had something, yeah.
I'm an assistant training director in Las Vegas, Nevada, and we've had recreational marijuana for quite a while now. I don't want to tread all over the old grounds here, but our drug testing policy is pre-indenture, pre-employment, random throughout the duration, and our Department of Defense and Department of Energy sites, they don't play around with that either. So, excuse me. Never changed our policies. However, we did have a bit of a contingency in the recreational marijuana language in the state of Nevada. It disbars you from pre-employment discrimination unless your job is of public or life safety. And our trade unions got together and confirmed that electricity, if not any other, is definitely considerable to one of those crafts. So our contractors enforce that pretty steadily too.
Great move, and it's a great point to reemphasize again, states and federal are different. We know that. You guys deal with it every day because you have state legalized it all around, but the federal department still has not legalized recreational use or medical marijuana, so same thing.
Yeah. And Lucas had, like I said, there's a ton of notes, and I know you may have already been in a session with him where he talked about it, but he talks about, majority of states now have legalized it for medical use, and then of course you've got those that are now recreational as well. But he mentioned, he said, let's see, he said programs should speak with counsel in their area about the continued lawfulness of testing applicants and apprentices for marijuana, and about a process for dealing with requests for a reasonable accommodation. Programs that test for marijuana should also keep an eye on changes to state law that may impact testing. Kind of like what we're saying, and again, I'm not here to argue for or against, but just the fact that, if you go out and have a beer, if you get smashed, on Saturday, like way past legal limits, Monday morning, you still may not feel great, but you're not gonna pop on any kind of alcohol test. Right. Whereas with marijuana, again, you could be perfectly fine Monday, more than capable of doing your work. But if someone tests you, it's in there. And so he just mentioned, he's like, this is his opinion. It is only his opinion. This is not legal advice. I just want to make sure that I cover that clearly. But he said even if programs are not prohibited by state law from testing for marijuana, he said programs should consider whether it still makes sense to test. We've got something over here. You're getting your steps in. I hope you've got on like some kind of watch or Fitbit.
We're in Oregon and we have suspended random tests. And then the pre-employment, they don't screen for marijuana. And if they're going to screen for marijuana, so for like a federal job or a couple of major generals, they have to give them written notice in advance of the test. And then the apprentice, I don't know about the journeyman, but the apprentice can say, just like a background check, I'm not going to pass this, and then they won't be put on that job.
Sorry, I'm taking that, my mouth is open and I was like, oh
Yeah.
crap, we're recording. I personally love, like, I love that. Again, I'm really, it sounds like I'm for, so I know like how this is coming across, but I just think, you know, as Todd said with alcohol, like it's, you know, now if you suspect that, like, I don't want you drunk on a job site where we're dealing with electricity. I don't want you impaired in any way because I want to go home to my family. I want you to go home to your family. So I don't want you high. I don't want you drunk. I don't want anything like that. I don't want you, truly, I don't want you sleepy. You know, I mean, that's also a very dangerous situation and with someone's, but I mean, we can't test for that.
And
But
that
you know,
was, that was
yeah.
exactly why, is there's no reliable test for impairment for it.
Yeah.
So
But giving that option to say, hey, I'm not going to pass it. I'm able to do it. I'm not doing anything illegal in this situation,
So
right?
this is brand new for us, and we haven't gotten a lot of direction, and so I talked to our drug-free people, and I said, can I treat it this way? And they said, yes, you can do that. And so that was what I've been telling the apprentices, is you tell me, same with like vaccinations, if there's a vaccination requirement and you are not vaccinated, you're not gonna be kicked out of the apprenticeship for not being able to go to that job site.
Right. You're just precluded from that. It's just
Right.
like someone with a felony.
Right.
Right. There's certain job sites you're not going to be able to go on, but it's not going to keep you
Right.
from going through our program. There just may be times when there's an unemployment situation for you. So that's excellent. Thank you. Look, did we answer your question? Ish. Okay. Yeah. Get some popcorn. Sit down. Okay. Let me tell you about the popcorn. So, any TDA, I was presenting with them and ended up mentioning popcorn, and that I love it, but it really does hurt my stomach. But I cannot stop like if I'm at a movie, I'm ordering it and I'm eating like all of it and I'm just gonna be sick, but I know the consequence. Like I admit that. Well, the next day, Tina Williams like presented me with a thing of popcorn. And I did indulge on my way home. I must admit, I was like, cut it off or you're gonna have a really hard time finishing this drive home from Memphis. But that's the popcorn joke. I didn't want to leave anyone out. So that's where that, and then he's been messing with me. So I'm expecting popcorn from you by the end of this week. I just wanted to throw that out. So I'll be very disappointed if I don't get, I'm kidding. Okay, anything else? I'm gonna go on to some questions, but is anybody's mind getting stirred? Something you want to chat about? We covered marijuana. Let's see, what else can we cover? Oh, I think, okay, strategies on how to retain good instructors. What do you do to we'll go even further, like finding a good instructor, training a good instructor, keeping a good instructor. How do you deal with that? And you have to answer this because it's going to look like you have no good instructors. So, you know, I'm going to be like, anybody that didn't answer just clearly does not like their instructors. Would not do that. Look, Robert loves his instructors. I just want to point that out. I'm kidding, Robert. I mean, I am. That's a good thing.
Hi, my name is Robert Cruz from Daytona Beach. I'm lucky I live in Florida. It's a retirement place. So recently, I found an ex-training director who retired, and he came to teach for me, Michael Acabellis. Anybody knows him. But, that was like the best find I could think of. So if anybody else is thinking about retiring, Daytona Beach is a nice place.
And you got a nice little side gig.
But we try. We really. I take education very serious. So trying to find good teachers is a priority. Trying to retain them. Let me find them first, and then we'll talk about retaining them.
Okay, that's fair. It's fair. Great point brought up. And I don't know if you want to say more on that. I can get you. Yeah. Let's get you a mic. Sorry. Again, lots of steps.
For us, getting good instructors with having daytime instructors full-time, it's been pretty easy because they get a lot of training. You're not really worried about them leaving. But some of our nighttime instructors, for the journeyman courses or whatever, that's an issue. And I know talking to nighttime programs, same thing. They're working all day and they're tired, so it's hard to get that retention. So,
I want to add one thing too. So I'm the assistant executive director for NECA, and we try to visit the school. We try to frequent it a couple times a week or every other week or whatever, just to show support for the instructors. It's important. We'll host some dinners or something like that. And I know that my counterparts on the IBW side, they also do things like that, right? They'll visit the classrooms, reiterate, talk about things on the job, and reiterate the importance of the homework and all that other stuff. So I think just showing our faces at the school and showing that you know, they're not alone in apprentices, because it's tough being an apprentice in today. You know, it was tough back when I did it, and it's tough now today. So, but it's important, I think, just so the apprentices understand that we're here for their help. I give them our card. I tell them, hey, I was in your shoes. If you have questions that I can't answer, I'll get you to the right people. And then also my counterparts do that too on the IBW side.
That's a really good point about the support, you know, like, and I'm thinking a lot about the nighttime instructors, because it sounded like by what you said, that would be where you might see some of this, is that they feel supported, because again, I'm speaking from where I was at, but you know, we're working during the day, right? So we've been there however many hours through the day. Now it's evening, you know, do those evening instructors just kind of feel like, all right, you know, and again, they're tired. They've worked all day, most of them. I mean, there could be some that are retired, but you know, most of them have worked all day. Now they're coming in from a long day. The apprentices have also worked all day, coming in from a long day, you know, so that's not always a great mix anyway. But then if they're not feeling the support and love from the JATC staff, then maybe there's part of, you know, it could be a breakdown on retention and stuff.
I'm sure it is. And the nighttime, daytime instructors definitely have a different viewpoint on what makes a good instructor and what they're committed to as well. Because today's world, the nighttime, part-time instructor, a lot of times they're giving up overtime. So not only you have to pay them well to get you get up a lot of paid overtime to go with it as well if they're trying to lose. Sometimes incentivizing might help too. So
yeah,
you got to figure out.
Absolutely. Did you ask?
Yeah, so that was my question. We just had a phenomenal instructor leave, and we're in the process of getting another instructor. And I don't know if you guys know, but Wisconsin, the way that we do it is we, you know, it's a state thing. We actually pay our apprentices to go to school for a day of the week, and depending on what year they are. So we had our instructor was taught at the local technical college. And you know, there were a number of things that he brought to our attention that maybe we could do better. It was a little bit out of our control, but I guess I would be curious to know if, you know, sounds like mostly everybody is nighttime instructors, and in Daytona Beach, like, you know, that was kind of the thing you brought up. Well, if you're close to retirement age, are you, you know, yeah, I mean, I would love to retire or teach in retirement, but I'm just not ready.
Yeah,
So.
But it's a future resume for you. So you mentioned, I think we've got a couple of more hands. Something to think about as well is, you know, allowing feedback from your instructors. Sometimes it's good to go anonymous. I mean, I think there's beauty in knowing who's struggling and if someone's willing to come and talk to you that way, but sometimes starting anonymous, and I've mentioned this before, like short survey questions, an opportunity for feedback. Don't take up people like 1 to 3 minutes max that it's going to take someone to fill that out. Let it be completely anonymous, and then, you know, don't get offended by what you receive, but look at it and say, hey, okay, this is what these people are feeling, and especially if there becomes like this common denominator, then maybe we can start to see what could be. And I'm not suggesting it's us or it's the JATC or it's someone's fault, but you know, we're human. We can't think of everything, and let's talk to the people that are actually living this experience.
So we actually had one completely retire this year and two that wanted to retire this year. We asked the ones that wanted to retire, you know, what can we do to make you feel a little bit better about staying long term. So we're going from one teacher for a full year curriculum to a teacher teaching an individualized, just AC theory, just instrumentation, stuff like that. We actually brought in 2 or 3 more teachers this year that were who wanted to teach, but they didn't want to teach a whole school year. So it helps them only have to come in for 2 or 3 weeks at a time, not the whole school year long.
I like that. That's really, yeah.
If I may, I'm sorry. I cut
Yeah,
you
no,
right,
you're
but-
good. This is what it's for. This is what we're here for. No, you're
Right.
good.
Well, I think this is a problem that's just going to get worse. Okay. Unfortunately, there's a lot of moving parts here. When I was a journeyman, I became an instructor. I taught night school. I'd had the challenges of coaching a ball team for my son, working, and coming and prepared for a class. So I know how challenging that is. When I became the training director, fortunately, I started a 3-year campaign and we moved over to day school. When we were doing night school, we have 200 apprentices, so we might have had 12 instructors to service 200 apprentices for night school. That's 12 different personalities. Just telling it like it is, we might have had Monday night football in one class, we might have had politics in another class, and we might have actually been teaching the curriculum in another class, okay? When you make that, or the only solution I can think of that really solves this problem is when we transitioned over to day school, 12 personalities turned into 2, okay? And they became full-time instructors. This was their job. So you found the best of the best. They didn't have to worry about another employment job. With full-time instructors, then we were able to build labs and curriculum to complement the current curriculum that we have. The other issue with finding retired people, which no one's more intelligent than our retired members. They've seen it all, right? Unfortunately, they're not going to welcome, in most cases, some of the new electronic techniques and processes we're going through as we transition. They're going to want to go back to the binder, and they're going to want to do that method. So if you want a real hard solution, start talking. It took me 3 years, but start talking and thinking about day school.
And oh, go ahead.
Thanks, Danny. You're exactly right. I think that's a valuable experience and valuable lesson we can see. Now, each program will have to implement that differently. You're great in your model. I don't know how to explain it to everybody else to do it. We might get you to share a few of those tips along the way when people ask. So.
Yeah.
So in Ann Arbor, I've been lucky, blessed that we're day school, 2 instructors, 2 full-time instructors, and we use our night classes to have people co-teach to make sure that they enjoy teaching, because the idea of it a lot of times is one thing, but actually being prepared, getting in front of a classroom, doing the lesson plan, that's a whole different thing. So you got to identify people who enjoy it and then send them to NTI, get them in front of apprentices. We do night school for residential. My instructor with 24 years is retiring in next Thursday. So we have an opening. We don't have openings for instructors very often. He's going to continue to teach part-time, and the instructor, I know Todd knows Bob Koski. He was my instructor back in the day when I went through, and he's still there. He comes in 2 days a week. He teaches instrumentation, Part A for journeyman, and we are actually helping out the neighboring local and teaching their 5th years, and Bob's doing that. So if you find the right people, it's really difficult, but you got to have support of your committee. I blessed all my contractors on my committee went through the program. One of our contractors was our top apprentice when he went through, and they're bought into doing what's right for the industry, not what's right for them. So it's everybody working together, but you have to work to identify that people, because I don't know, there's a half a dozen that we started out that found it wasn't for them, and probably 2 dozen that we found out wasn't for us. So you have to work at it.
Yeah, got a couple. While you're moving it around, I think I liked something that you all were saying, it came to mind, having the support of those instructors that are maybe ready to either not do as much, or maybe they're ready to stop, but let them help with the transition. Because again, they're bringing this wealth of knowledge and experience that they can pass along, or maybe they're really good, like some, at the JTC I was at, they're, one that's just not comfortable with, the minute you start talking about doing things online and with the computer, it was like, but he's phenomenal. And especially like the hands-on stuff, so it's like, man, let's find a blend here, let him help with this, let this person, and make that work. It's different, right? So we're thinking outside the box.
Hi, Chance Solomon. I'm a full-time instructor from Oklahoma City. Also a graduate of the 4-year and the advanced studies. As far as retention goes, coming here is probably the biggest thing. I'm an assistant training director now too, so I get in a funk every single year. It doesn't matter how many years I've been doing this. It's a tough job, but coming here and getting to go through the curriculum and be around other instructors keeps me going. So as far as retention, this is the biggest thing that's kept me in the position I'm in and not back out in the field. Finding new instructors is hard. We use our CWC instructors. We bring people in, test them out there. If they seem to be working out, then we bring them to NTI with us, and we do it that way.
That's excellent. I was like, oh, that's a star from a previous podcast. So wait, the change to, is the assistant training director new? Has that happened since we recorded?
Since the podcast, more responsibility, no more pay.
Oh.
Still teaching full time.
I was gonna be like, congrats, and now I'm like, maybe I don't.
sorry,
No,
sorry,
seriously,
yeah.
that's huge. Congratulations on that. That's, and it's not a plug for NTI. I really, like, I know that it would feel like that. We're here, so, but when you hear from the instructor, so it's not me, Cindy, or me from the ETA saying it, it's people who've been through it, you know, saying it. I think that really does say something about the benefit to our instructors to come. Got here and then,
All right, go
no,
ahead,
no,
Jim.
Jim
Get
was first and then,
Sorry.
yeah.
I actually love to use the Outstanding Apprentice Program to bring in my new kids. When we select our OAs, I have that in mind, that am I going to be able to use that person as a teacher down the road? We bring them here, we get them excited. I kind of like, it's like setting the hook, you know what I mean? You set the hook, you reel them in, and then you get them involved in a small project. Maybe teaching lull, or lift training, or CPR, and see if they like it. And then you start rolling them back in here, and same thing to your point, get them in I group right away. Get them excited. And I have a lot of teachers that may not be teaching, I forget who said it somewhere here, part of the class, part of the year. You're not teaching, you're not committing for the whole 9-10 months out of the year, but you'll do something you feel comfortable teaching to start with. Like me, I got thrown in with 2 weeks lead time, said, here's third year, go for it. I try not to set them up to fail. So that's how we roll. But the OA program's great. If you don't have to send anyone, send somebody.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jim. Very true. And the OA program does identify talent for you, but you maybe end up competing for that talent with other people's needs too. So,
Yeah.
but I like it. I like going instructor.
Yeah, and it's training, right? I mean, isn't that what we do? So, you know, to leave an instructor, or to leave a training director, you know, any, like, out of the loop of training, like, somehow to expect someone's just going to get into a role and then just somehow they're just going to know everything, they're going to naturally get better, and, you know, it's a lot.
I've said it 100 times. As far as my first few years teaching, I was probably one of the worst instructors around. So think about it. You gotta. Now, there was no training model. Nothing existed then. They just handed you the book, like Jim said. All right, you're teaching next week. I said, okay.
Right.
Little bit happened that way. You got to teach yourself how to do that. So great points. Thank you, Jim.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Jim as well, so that kind of confused me when you said you're going to Jim first. My name's Jim Rush, out of Local 440 in Southern California, and we've had the same struggles with retention and identifying new teachers. And I'm sitting and listening to the conversation. I'm frustrated with myself because I hadn't thought of this idea until now, but we should, within our JATCs, develop some sort of teacher's assistant, like a TA, no different than somebody who's a teacher in an actual education system. They have to do a semester as a TA, so that would allow individuals without the commitment of teaching to go in and sit with an instructor, learn different styles, because for a lot of the teachers, and I'm not a teacher myself, but it's fear of the unknown. We're all wiremen in some form or capacity, so it's fear of the unknown and understanding what different teaching styles are, communication styles, and what have you. But if we develop some sort of TA type program, you may help foster and bring up more teachers for your future.
That is.
And I'm pissed that I just thought about it right now.
But
We
now
can't
you
edit. We
thought
can't edit
about
stuff,
it.
right? Mark, we can't edit stuff, right? We can do that.
Oh no, we're not editing that. Are you kidding me? There is nothing on there that tells you Motion Picture Association rating on our podcast. So if they let me do the podcast, I can promise you there is no restriction. Yeah.
Yeah, Rob from Mount Vernon, Washington, and we have a full daytime school. We have about 5 instructors currently. What I found is figure out what their passion is and let them run with that. And what I mean by that, if somebody really loves solar, let's get them involved. If there's some energy board or something in the community state college, let's get them on that. Somebody that's really loving the code, let's get them on code making panel, that type of stuff. So investing a little bit in giving them the chance to grow their career. and really it's kind of selfish on my part in the sense that it's helping all of our apprentices and benefiting our program too. And the other piece, which I failed utterly at because I just had to let 2 instructors go, but I did not educate my committee at just how difficult it is to find great instructors. You know, we're investing in these people, you know, and we really need, you can't treat them as inside wiremen where you just lay them off, they go in the books, and, you know, I can get 2 more real fast to replace them. So, you know, I think those are 2 key things there. I learned something, and also, you know, what we're doing in our program that's working pretty well.
Thank you very much, Robert. And you're right, as far as the re-education of our committees about the apprenticeship needs of a good instructor, you're right. That's something that I can help with. All I can do is start giving that message as well about how to build that message. It takes more than just putting somebody in the classroom the next day. And I'll use myself as an example again. I mean, I literally, when I was handed top out of my apprenticeship program on a Friday, and Keith Brand, Billy Hicks there at the time shared a job change between them, and I walked in the next Monday, when I top out on a Friday, Monday teaching the code course. So you had 0 prep, no way to do it when you go through and look at it. So you know the class was terrible. You know good and well it was terrible. So what kind of model can we put together to kind of give some assistance to new instructors and educate committees? You can't do that. You can't expect that class to perform with that instructor in the classroom. So, and we're not doing a student any justice. We do that.
Can we do a survey of those students?
No, you'll never know who they are. I won't even tell Stephanie who they are, and she probably knows some of them. So no.
Stephanie, we'll talk later. Got a hand over here. I think what you were talking about though, Rob, it's a win-win, right? There's, yes, the JTC benefits, but you're empowering this person, you're allowing them to find their niche and, you know, and grow. And I think, man, I want to give back to someone who sees something in me and allows me to kind of like spread my wings and get better at things. So I think, again, you almost create loyalty naturally by doing something like that.
I was wondering if we could switch topics.
Let's do it.
Maybe we could talk about CWCEs wanting to transfer into the AIW program and that process, okay? Locally, I'm dealing with right now, the one party of the process of the committee is wanting to follow the direct entry process, which is great. That's wonderful. However, there's some moving parts that they want included in that would not be fair for direct entry for others just coming in off the street. So I can't find a good fit, according to our standards, for CWCEs to come in through direct entry. I'm sure others may be dealing with this problem as well. And here's the problem that we're dealing with the most. When you come in through direct entry, the direct entry process says the BEJTC will evaluate this person. Well, one partnering agency's already done that, okay? So if we were to look at the possibility of some sort of transfer process from CWCE to AIW, nothing to do with the direct entry process, is that something tangible and possible that can be done? A transfer from CWCE to AIW?
In a way, Danny, yes and no. I mean, it's not to have a direct answer because the CWCE program being an unindentured, unregistered program, you can't really make a transfer from an unregistered program to a registered program. That's what it looks like. But what's possibly done is you can take the CWCE to be the hybrid program, which is registered. There is a transfer path for the hybrid apprenticeship from CWCEs to the inside wireman program. That does exist. So making them a hybrid apprenticeship would do that. But being unregistered, no. They still got to go through the application process all the way through. And I'm reading between the lines what you say. You said it quite clearly. And your party, we satisfy our sponsoring parties. I get it. That's our job, what we have to do, to take care of their needs as well as we build our apprenticeship program without destroying the apprenticeship model. And bringing in CWCEs, technically, theoretically, either one side or the other has already evaluated those CW 1, 2, 3, 4, wherever they are, and said they're at this level. Well, I bring them into JATC, I'll know, wait a minute, you gotta take his test to do what? I've already brought them here, just let it ready to go. You tell me they're not gonna quite equate to that model? I can see where the conflicts arising and your shoes there. Short-term response, the hybrid model where you make them all a hybrid apprentice first and transfer them in, yeah, that's easy. You can do that, your committee can do that. Long-term, one of the things I want to do is get to where you get to talk about a competency model, what it is. I want to evaluate every apprentice the same way we expect every worker to perform on the job sites. I want to do away with paper testing at JATC. I want them gone. That's a big change in what we do grading. How do you progress people through? How do you grade people? Well, that's a control issue because we use a metering issue. Let's take AC theory. If you were trained in AC theory, you study all the lagging, leading performance factors, three-phase current, power factor corrections, all the apparent power needs that are there, and then study all the AC theory, and then give the student a set of meters and a three-phase circuit. Go take these measurements. You tell me what this transformer delta Y connected three-phase power circuit and what is produced off of it. What is the Z factor? What is my reactive power going to be? And they do that and answer those questions. Why do I want to make them take a paper test? I don't. So then I can take that worker as a CW at that time, bring them over here and say, all right, this is what we expect our journeyman to be able to do this. There's no formula, there's no math you got to remember, nothing like that you have to do, and you can use a performance-based evaluation. We're getting there. So I like to say it's a three-phase system. And the first phase was building the infrastructure to make it happen. The LMS system, the operating system, we have the most powerful engine for doing this in the world, I'm telling you. The system we built is so that integrated and that potential use is going to be tremendous as far as going forward. We're in phase 2 now, is building CML. That's computer mediated learning to give us the time to do that. Once that curriculum is developed, all of a sudden all of our assessments can go to what? Performance-based evaluations. Where they go? Now, we will not lose all paper tests. We're not getting rid of the history of NECA and the labor history and involvement with it. We're not getting rid of that because those are very critical importance to building part of the family, what we do, how we do it. And I don't know how to test that other than maybe get them to give a lecture back to you, write a story, essay, something, or a paper test may exist and something like that to make sure they read the material. But that would take care of a lot of your problem, I think.
I have a solution I've offered my committee that I'm going to share and bounce off of you if I can. If they were to not take the direct entry process, which the direct entry process allows you as an applicant to choose to go that route or just apply for the program.
Right.
If they were to just apply for the program, go through the interview process, hear from the one side of the party that's been sponsoring them thus far, I'm confident the other side of the party would support them in this process. They would get selected into the apprenticeship program. They would be given credit for previous on-the-job training, and that committee might even honor the evaluation that they already took place. And that would circumvent all of this because we're just applying for the program and we have some skills that the committee could give credit for.
Very valid solution.
The hiccup I'm having with that is, well, now you're making our people go through an interview. So everyone's going to get the opportunity to go through an interview process and get properly selected and evaluated for where they fit in your program.
Exactly, and what he's referring to in the interview process, you can never close off any application process, any of the pathways into apprenticeship, can't be closed off. In other words, you can't suddenly require everybody's got to come from a CWCE background. You can't do that. You have to leave it open to everybody. But what you can do is you can use prior experience, training, and education as a ranking evaluation on the ranking list for the interview. That's how it's done. And that's a legal way to do it, and it's the right way to do it because you're rewarding somebody for past experience and using it. But don't ever say you have to complete this process and it's going to be a rigged system to come in a model where it's done. It's always a process of applying, get through the program, and rank because of prior experience in our education that ranked higher. Pure and simple.
So I thought about something when you said that they have to interview again, and not every company or industry is like this, but sometimes you may be working for an organization and you're this, right? This is my title, this is my field, but I find out about a job opening somewhere else within that organization and I want to apply for it. So there's an application process, right? I have to apply for the job. I'm going to have to be selected. They might be interviewing people within the company. There might be people outside the company they're interviewing. I'm going to have to go talk to somebody, right? It's not going to be enough to just say, I work here in this department. So, to me, there's a little bit of that. I don't know. I'm not suggesting it's going to sell, but I look at it like the CWCE program is not the apprenticeship. The apprenticeship is not the CWCE. And I was very robotic in it, but one doesn't get you into the other, one doesn't keep you from the other. Correct. But they are two different applications. They are two different programs. So to me, that's how I see it. It's not that we're forcing a new interview in the sense of you're not enough or you're not a part of us. It's that, hey, you're applying now for a different job or a different role within the company, and therefore we got to talk about that. You're doing this, and the fact that you're doing it and have great recommendations maybe from your contractor or whoever, that goes along with you into this new role you're desiring. Again, I'm not suggesting it works, but it's a thought that came to my mind. Yeah. Anything else? We're about to get out of time, but I wanted to, the one thing, did you have a hand? Somebody? Anybody? Okay. I start seeing things, and then it's probably just because it's late in the day. Not drunk or high. No drug testing or alcohol testing, please. I swear, everybody's been watching me. I'm good. We mentioned outstanding apprentices, so I was thinking about wrapping on this. This year we have a record number. We have 105, which is just woo. Like, I can't remember what it started with. Was it like, okay, 10. So the very, very, very first outstanding apprentice group was 10, and we've got 105, which is just brilliant. So someone had asked, like, one, they were talking about how do you recognize an outstanding apprentice? So not talking about NTI. We're just talking about how do you recognize, how do you choose your outstanding apprentice, period, just within your own JATC, but then also, do you have criteria for sending an outstanding apprentice to NTI to be recognized? So does anybody have any like advice that they could give someone on that? So again, how do you recognize within your JATC and pick your outstanding? And then if you do send them to NTI, what type of criteria do you have? Did you have something? You're gonna have to say something because I pointed at you. Oh, popcorn needs the mic. Oh, that's your new nickname. Can we get a new badge?
I'm sure someone can print one. Uh-huh. We look at the totality of the 5 years of their classroom time, plus their work histories. We want a well-rounded person coming out here, not just the kid who had the best grade average,
right?
Who does well on the job, who participates, right? That's step one. I collate all that up. I take my top 2 or 3 to the committee and present them to them. They make the final determination on who is our outstanding apprentice. Mm-hmm. We've had years where we had 3. They couldn't decide between the 3 candidates I brought, so we'll send them all. I have 4 here right now because we had a backlog.
Oh, right.
So those guys were promised they were going to get to come. It might be 2 years later, but they got to come. And out of those 2 right now, I've already committed to teaching for me. So.
Excellent. Yeah, that's great.
Very good.
That's great. Well, and you give them an experience. You know, we talk about, someone said it. Do we have, I think we might have had another hand. Okay. Someone had talked about how, you know, NTI instructors come, right? They have NTI, they have other possible events. Training directors, we try to have regional seminars. We have training director committee seminars. We have NTI. But apprentices often don't have a look at how big our industry is, how things are, you know. And so having the outstanding apprentice, which I understand it's 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever it is, but it's your, you know, your choice of the top. But to be able to experience it, I think does something for them, meeting fellow apprentices, or recent graduates, I should say.
I'm trying to figure out how to make that program grow in ways, not just outstanding apprentice graduates, some other graduates, they've completed apprenticeship. But everyone there will tell you that after this week, their evaluation tools coming back, which I'll read them all, and say, I wish I would have known this my first year. How do we get that across?
So could we have, sorry everyone, we're not planning for the future of NTI, I swear I'm coming. But yeah, like why, could we have something, and not restrict it to a year, right? But some first through fifth, you know, you have an apprentice you know, some kind of program, so they don't have to have graduated. They're current apprentices that you do see something in them. Maybe you're doing it for encouragement. Maybe you're like, man, there's something, I know they have it in them, but it just seems like they're getting complacent, or they need that push, and you send that person, and maybe then you find out if, you know, where they're at. But I mean, you just start growing people that way.
So we have a contest within our own students every year to determine who our outstanding apprentice is. We take their grade point average, and it's weighted 40% of the 5 years. Yes, you did your homework, you learned something at that time, but do you still know it as a 5th-year graduate in our program? Then we put them through a practical exam. So they do a written exam and then a practical exam, and those 2 combine together for 60% of the weighted score with 40% of your 5-year grade point average. So they actually go across the hall, hook up transformers, motor control circuits, and things of that nature. They do a practical and a written exam. And the math tells us who our outstanding apprentices. I take the top 3 of that selection process to the committee. If the committee says, you know, John's really had a bad reputation through this program, Tom's a better fit, even though he is second, then that committee chooses who they want to go. Traditionally, it's always been whoever had the highest score and qualified. I learned something at NTI this year that really excited me. Since we're already doing this in the 5th year, someone else mentioned in their program they're doing this in the 1st year, the 2nd year, the 3rd year, the 4th year. They're identifying their outstanding apprentice each year. what a motivating possibility. So I'm carrying that back home to us as well. So as far as the other part of it, once we found our outstanding apprentice to come to NTI, we've gone to CSLMCC and we've given them a budget and asked for their scholarship to help us, and they 100% support it.
Wow.
Excellent, excellent. I see over here. I was thinking, I don't know if anyone else has ever tried this, but like with the, I'm just speaking for the 5th year, I love what you're talking about, but the 5th year outstanding apprentice, you know, it's like, do you let their classmates, you know, by anonymous ballot or whatever, you know, have a say in it essentially? And obviously that's not the, how that's weighted, I don't know, but you know, as you take it to the committee, the class chose.
Yeah, peer evaluation should be important as well.
Yeah, I think it has value.
We bring in an outstanding apprentice as well. We use our grades, the top grade. I do like the idea of having other options besides top grade. But we do identify our top apprentices every year. Part of that process and rewarding them, we have Apprentice Day at Tallahassee. So we take everybody, we take the top apprentice there, we take them to NETDA, or different places, wherever we can. We just try to take, not NETDA, but NICA event. But we do try to take them, we do try to reward them. I think it's very important. I come from a very big local up in New Jersey, but I am currently working in a very small local in Daytona Beach. And it's so much bigger than just their surroundings. NTI, places like this really show the expanse of what we are sometimes.
Great point, Robert.
Yeah.
So this is just to talk a little bit about the apprentices and the appreciation we have for them. It moving away a little bit from the topic, but so I went through the program myself 25 plus years ago, and then I landed this role at NICA, and one of the first jobs I had was they had this through Electri. Electri is the research and education arm of NICA. They had these challenges that they have. Well, one of the challenges is to go into the apprenticeship school, identify some apprentices that want to get involved in this small business startup challenge. And they'll be competing, it's a competition. And if they were to win, they get it was a financial reward. I can't remember what it was. So 2 years ago, working with Marty, we've identified some candidates, a group of 3. We ended up taking second place. I said, oh, pretty good, pretty good. So as the reward, we ended up taking those 3 individuals to the NICA convention. That was, in the first year it was put off, but then we made good, we made whole. Last year we took them to Tennessee and to Nashville, and it was a fantastic experience for them. But while they were there, we engage, our chapter of NICA engages with a Wayne State student chapter. It's another program that we run to help identify project managers or potential estimators and things like that. So anyway, so the apprentices got to mingle with the college that we have this partnership with. Fast forward, this year's challenge for this Electri, those same apprentices just so happened to work for this host contractor that we partnered with. And I just found out that we're going to go present in Texas, and I believe those same apprentices, now that worked as partners with the Wayne State student chapter, with the student chapter. So now you have students working with apprentices, and they were trying to understand to each other, explain to each other what their roles are in our industry. And by no means, all of these roles are so supportive and important for our industry, whether you're on my side, whether you're on the IBW side, we need each other, and the apprentices are so important too. And it gives the apprentices a good understanding of, hey, I can be an estimator, a business owner, a project manager, I can be a trustee, the sky's the limit for the apprentices, and they need to get exposed to that early on. And there's nothing wrong with just carrying around a pair of channel locks in your back pocket. Trust me, there's not. I did it for a long time. It's great, but we also need leaders at some point, and we need people that are going to continue the industry.
Right.
So.
Well, you can't make a choice if you don't know your options,
Just
right?
exposure.
And so that's what I think is important. Right. We're almost out of time, but I did want to, just one thing, just to make a comment. I know one of the questions we got was, what kind of resources are there for training directors and assistant training directors outside of NTI? So the point, NTI is great. You come, you network, you learn. Couple of things I would mention is, we do have other events, because I think there is value It's not looking to spend money, but I think there's value to getting out of the house, right, if you will, and go be somewhere else. It kind of refreshes you a little bit, hear some information, rub shoulders with your peers. So there are regional seminars. We do have a TD committee session that we do. So those are some things that we have. We do have staff that are willing to talk with you. And I know that it was mentioned, you mentioned NETDA. I know that's been brought up as well when we've done our TD Connect, which is something that we've started where every few months we just get on Zoom and legitimately, like, there is very little agenda other than just jump on, let's chat, laugh, joke, whatever. And this question was asked there, and they mentioned NETDA, where you've got the training directors together. So just in case someone was wondering about that, or someone listening, that there are certainly ways to connect with your peers, to learn from them, and don't ever hesitate to reach out to us and say, hey, who can I talk to? Because we, different staff members get to know training directors. So we might be able to say, yeah, we know this person has conquered this barrier that you're experiencing. So,
not a plug for NETDA.
but a plug.
But I found NETDA be extremely helpful. Not only just standing around everybody who's your peer, like you said, we need our peers, we need our mentors, we need to be mentoring others. And going to NETDA, to find out everybody had the same passion that I do was just, it was great. And it was good to get out and really be with each other and explain ourselves and have a really good time. So
it's good. Now, that's a great organizational meet to get and talk. We have other regional meetings we have to do the same thing. We try to keep it smaller, the regional meetings smaller for a reason. We have more one-on-one time. We can talk and communicate that's there. One of the better ones we had going on this year is actually had a new committee member training, along with new training director meeting, as well as existing committee member and training director meeting. Very well attended, one of the better meetings, I think, seminar we were able to put on. We would definitely do it again. I'd like to get to demand have to do it twice a year if we could, because I love our committees. I mean, that's how we work by committee. I know that's how it works and how we succeed, but this education needs to take place at committee level sometimes. This is trying to help them out a little bit, give them an avenue where they can come in and talk, have some face-to-face conversations with why we do what we do and why we do it and why the need is there. And sometimes it does open eyes. And we did do it this past session quite a few times, which I enjoy that too.
Right. And I just want to say, I heard about a gentleman that I'd known throughout his apprenticeship, and then he went to be a journey worker, and I found out that he had been added, Lord. Sorry, it's again getting later in the day, but he was now on the committee at the JATC, and when Todd talked about them, I think he's going to be fantastic. Let me make that very clear, but I'm unless something, which something could have happened that I don't know, but I'm what does he know about this world? I don't want him to be set up for failure. Does he understand what the role is, as a committee member, as a trustee? And so this training, when Todd started talking about it, I'm that's beautiful. Now he can go and hear from experts, legal advice and all that stuff. So anyway, I think I guess I'm plugging now, this committee and TD training, because it really does help you. It helps the committee member to be able to do their job. And we know there's a lot of responsibility. You hear it from the attorneys. That's a heavy weight to take on, and a lot of times people don't even know they're taking it. And thank you, everyone. I'm looking at all your faces. Thank you for coming to this session. Thank you for your engagement and interaction. And you can look for your Say What podcast debut at the end of August. So hand clap for you. Thank you so much. Thank you. All right, go enjoy your evening.
Thank you so much to everyone who attended our 31st NTI and for making it so very special. You are why we do it. And it is truly our privilege to serve the industry. Big thanks to you, the listeners, for taking time to join us. Remember, we want to hear from you, and we want to cover topics that are important to you. So if you have anything that you would like to suggest to us, please send me an email at saywhat, that's SAYWATT, @electricaltrainingalliance.org. Our next episode is coming your way in September, and we are talking with the IBEW Our Power Instructor of the Year, Rachel Hines, and the Apprentice of the Year, Melanie Zavala. Until then, stay connected with us through our newsletters, blog posts, and on social media. Be sure to follow us there, subscribe to this podcast, tell someone about it. Stay powered up, and we will see you next time.
Say what?